Hello, I'm Cheryl Meyer, and I'm otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse. And what my goal is to inspire you to lead a healthier life. So when I proposed my podcast, I proposed that we present it in two different segments. The first one is It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health, where I get to share everything I have learned to return my health back to relative wellness and to live a pain-free life in spite of the fact that I have autoimmune disease. But the second part of my podcast is this episode, and that's Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in. My concept with this is it's all fine and well that you hear me tell my story, but I get a lot of, it's all fine and well that it worked for you, but it's not going to work for me. And I wanted you to hear that there are lots of people out there that have made changes in their lifestyle that have supported their health and brought them back to relative wellness. We all have a couple things in common. We all owned our own health. Whatever the doctor was suggesting we did was going on a parallel path to us making these lifestyle changes where we did things that cleaned up our toxic load. We all pay attention to our body. You'll hear jazz in the background because I want you to listen to the rhythm of your health, and I want you to pay attention to what your body is telling you. My body had been trying to tell me that I was going to topple over into toxic load for some time. I just wasn't listening. So if you clean up your lifestyle and if you listen to your body, you have a very good chance not of being deprived in any way, but returning to feeling darn good. And that's what these podcasts are really all about. So thank you for joining me. This is going to be a Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in episode, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that we all inspire you to lead a healthier, happier life. Thank you. Okay, I am here with a wonderful woman that lives in my community that I met probably a year ago because she wanted to share her story about getting poisoned by glyphosate, which for all of you who don't know, that's Roundup. And it is being sprayed on all of our public lawns. It's being sprayed on schoolyards. It's being sprayed on golf courses. It's being sprayed on the grass strips along the sidewalk. And what really makes it dangerous is Roundup is being sprayed on our conventional crops and on genetically modified crops. And one of the aspects of being genetically modified is they have made those crops Roundup ready so that they can put even more Roundup on those crops. And it doesn't get washed off, and it all goes into our bodies, and it's part of our toxic load and part of why we're getting sick. Well, Michele got severely glyphosate poisoned. And I think that you all need to understand her story because this stuff is impacting all of us, and it is still being sold and it is still being sprayed everywhere. So I wanted you to hear her story. So I invited her today to be an honored guest, and I am thrilled that she is here. So welcome, Michele. I am so happy that you're here.
Thank you. And good day.
Good day. So tell us where you're from originally.
I'm originally from Australia. That's why I talk funny.
You talk cute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Originally born in Melbourne. Yeah, came over here and love America.
And how long have you been in America?
Oh, crikey. Oh, Lord. 2008. A long time. 12 years. 12, 13 years.
And you came with your daughter as well?
Yes, Bethany.
And you did not have a grandson at that point, correct?
No. That's an awesome story after the story.
Okay, cool. So why don't you tell me sort of what happened to you and how you got so severely glyphosate poisoned?
Okay. It's hard to talk about because it's a bit embarrassing. actually a lot embarrassing. I had relatives over here that had a bug problem, and they sprayed the inside of their house and their couch and everything that I was sleeping on. And I laid on it, breathed it in, and it did damage to my body.
And how long have you been dealing with this now?
Crikey, about 5-6 years.
Okay.
If not longer. Yeah.
And I know you have a fantastic husband who is extremely supportive.
Oh, he's an angel.
And your health issues have gotten kind of increasingly worse instead of better, but you are still thriving because of some things that you're doing, which is why I wanted to talk to you. So tell me a little bit more about how this happened. You would go to your relative's house, you were in their house, so you were being continually exposed to the chemicals.
And they'd sprayed in, they had a bug problem, and they sprayed their furniture and sprayed inside their place. And some people are more susceptible with these things, and because my kidneys have a low filter rate, it stayed inside my body. And I started noticing the symptoms straight away.
And what were the first symptoms that you were dealing with?
My legs were going really red, lost appetite, and neurologically, I used to be able to run up and down stairs really quickly. We used to do ministry and help people, and I used to be the fastest up the stairs, but then all of a sudden I couldn't put one foot in front of the other to quickly go down the stairs, things like that. You know, the stomach, having trouble eating, not being able to eat properly, being full really quickly. One of the earliest signs a couple of years into it, big one, was because a lot of things had happened, and I went to the doctors about stomach things, and they started doing they started doing tests, and a CT scan started to show cysts, like on the adrenal gland, on the kidney, in the pancreas, in the liver. All these cysts were coming up. And then I had my gallbladder out, and it didn't have gallstones in it. It was just inflamed and about to burst, really red and inflamed, and they had to take that out. And that's when, because of more tests from that's when they just started discovering some more problems. After that, my hematocrit started going up, my blood was thickening. What else was there? There was trouble breathing, because it affected every part of the body.
And did the doctors have any clue what had caused this for you? Or did they even try to figure that out?
No, and I'd been saying from the start I had pesticide poisoning. My original doctor, my primary care doctor, she's always said, she started testing me for leukemia about 5 years ago. And she's awesome because, you know, one doctor had treated me badly. So my primary care doctor came in and said, hey, I'm your doctor. I'm with you through thick and thin. And she's been a blessing. And so she's been doing the test and finding stuff and with me. And she's just such a blessing. You know, doing the test and being really proactive, encouraging me to be proactive, especially with the liver. The liver was really, really embarrassing because it went really big. It ended up with the cirrhosis and damage that a drug addict or an alcoholic could have, and I don't drink or take drugs. I don't even take painkillers. So when I started seeing other doctors, it was really embarrassing because they go, how much do you drink? And I'm like, I don't drink. I've got pesticide poisoning. So for a while there, I was going home crying, going, they think that I've done something and I haven't. And so that's when I started doing the research and said, look, I had Roundup poisoning, you know, and, you know, some doctors treat you badly, but I'm blessed to have really, really good doctors now.
Well, and you stayed with it and you fought for what you knew had happened to you, which is a big part of it. I think it's not that conventional doctors particularly don't want to help, because they do, but if they can't hear your first complaint and prescribe some kind of a pill to magically make you better, they don't understand what to do next. They're not trained in medical school to know what to do next.
But also who some doctors are sponsored by.
Yeah.
Makes a difference. Because
well,
you mentioned the company.
Pharmaceutical companies also are sponsoring the medical schools.
Yeah.
So that's how we've gotten into this situation. And most conventional doctors get most of their new information from their pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah.
That was a shock to me. It never occurred to me. And unless it's their specialty, it can take 16 years to go into new findings, going into a journal.
Exactly.
Before it trickles out to general medicine and they get the information. It's a slow process. If you happen to be in that specialty, you'll read the article. But if you're not, it doesn't filter out to you as a physician.
And now, because it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, so my hematocrit's high, my ferritin's low, and they're going, we don't understand, and it's, so now pesticide poisoning, unintentional, is on my doctor's report. So, when I'm having my blood test, that's on there. Good. So that's a positive. So, because I do have the genetic genes for hemochromatosis, which makes things go up anyway, but the ferritin's low and I've only had one phlebotomy. So my blood does weird things. It's, and with the night sweats I have, they've now ruled out hormones. So I'm meant to be having tests because the cyst in the liver's doubled. They're going to be checking for pancreatic cancer. They're going to be checking, because the cyst in the breast, they kept, every time I have more tests, there's more lumps there. It's not breast cancer, but cysts are coming up all over the body. So me being me, I research when these things are happening, and the scientific reports show that big cysts grow in different parts of the body from Roundup. I remember the one with the rats where the cysts are coming up.
Right.
And that's what's happening. Cysts come up everywhere, and the neurological effects. I had to learn to walk twice last year. And, in the last couple of years, every now and again, I lost weight last year after they did a stomach biopsy. And the Roundup went back in the system, and I ended up going really yellow. So then my alkaline phosphate and everything shot up high, and in the photos from back then, it showed how yellow I was. So it also affected my lungs. It thickened the lungs. It thickened the stomach lining. Hi, you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, you look like you froze.
I'm trying to turn off the beeper sounds.
Oh.
Okay, we should be good.
Okay. Now. Yeah, it thickened the lung lining. It thickened the stomach lining. It thickened the bowel lining. What else has happened? I've had a couple of mini strokes from it. Because when the blood thickens, you're prone to stroke. I've had 2 mini strokes, a mini heart attack, and I don't always go to the doctors because my faith, and it's like if Lord's brought me through this far, He's going to do it. So I just hold on to that, and it's like yeah, I've had to learn to walk and stuff like that. Sometimes I become very blonde. I forget things, but I thank God for blonde hair, because it allows you to laugh at yourself. Just stuttering. Every now and again, I'll get a droop in the side of the face. The first,
that's
when
like
I first,
palsy.
They're always checking for blood clots in the lungs and the brain. Being a survivor of domestic violence, it's allowed me, I see it as, some tests have taken 3 times to do because of what I went through with my ex. He was very violent. So I've seen it as a challenge to overcome, being given the chance to overcome fear. So when it's something like a brain scan or you know, a lung stuff where stuff's over my face, I utilize that and say, okay, this is a challenge, you know, to overcome. I remember my first brain scan where they thought a blood clot was in the brain. I remember being in there and, you know, my church's music was going through my head, but I'm like, I was praying, I'm not even a grandma yet. And, you know, 40 weeks later, I became a grandma. And
he's beautiful.
Nady's gorgeous. And so, you know, I try to see the positive in every negative. And so when they find stuff, it's like a challenge. Like my husband calls me Skippy because I'm Australian, and he calls it a Skippy adventure. So the easiest way when I'm going through these tests is so I don't feel alone. I don't bring my husband in because it hurts him with some of the tests, you know, because he loves me so much, you know, and some places you've got to wait. And, but he's been coming in, he came in on a breathing test with me and he coached me through it. And I felt really blessed. I felt really blessed that he was there to help me through it because I was really scared on that one. The Roundup gave me what I've now got, 74% lung use or capacity. So it caused COPD. You know, it affected my esophagus, stomach. What other organs is there? It's
lungs,
basically,
obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, the way I started noticing that was, I don't know if you've seen the movie Beaches. Like I'd go shopping, I'd go to get up the stairs, and it was like, okay, trying to get up the stairs. And I mean, I've always power walked and I couldn't breathe. It'd take 10 minutes or whatever to breathe. And I'd have to have the fan in my face, couldn't cool down, stuff like that. And then when I originally got tested, my blood oxygen level was low. So I don't know if you remember the photos where I had the oxygen on my face. They used to have, it went through a stage where I had to have a lot of that. You know, and then they'd be checking for blood clots all over the body, you know, to see if they were in the legs, and chest, stomach, brain, all that sort of stuff. The liver's the hardest one because it keeps doubling. They wanted to check the cyst in the pancreas, and I wouldn't let them go in because I thought, well, okay, my faith's going to keep me through this, and I don't want more damage to happen. Do you know what I mean? It can cause more damage, and I don't take painkillers and things, and you know, so it's frustrating, but I literally blog it on my Facebook all the time, every time I'm going through stuff, so I don't forget stuff, because it's important to document it as you go through it, because you go through so much with this that it's easy to forget what you've gone through.
Right.
Because you have to sometimes disassociate from feeling while you're going through it, because some of the tests are awful. You know, and you see doctors and then you got to explain how it happened again. And, you know, if a doctor's understanding, great, but if they're not, you know, I've gone home on the bus crying my eyes out sometimes, feeling less than. You know, so that's why it's important to blog, share it with people, even if you get knocked down or put down for speaking up.
And people need to hear your story. They do.
Yeah.
They need to hear your story.
And some people, when I've shared it with them, they've treated me less than because, you know, of the people that did it. You know, I must be a troublemaker for speaking up, you know.
Yeah. But you can't worry about that. You can't control what they think.
I don't. And
you have to take care of you.
It's taken a long process of forgiveness to myself for trusting, because when you forgive and it lets it go, and because unforgiveness does more stuff to your body as well.
Right.
So it's like, stay joyful, joke around, you know.
Yeah, humor is a very important part of health.
Church, lots of worship music, staying in touch with people, asking if they're okay, joining groups, encouraging people, and just letting the story be out there, you know. And when you see people, you know, using Roundup, just explain it to them, you know. I mean, because most people will see you walk up and down, especially when I was with the cane, and they'd see me and what's happening, how's it going? And I've had so many people through Facebook and neighbors saying, you know, I don't use that anymore. I've used alternatives, or I do this, I do that, you know. And it's so important too, because it's like, what if it's your child? What if it's your grandchild? What if it's you that gets tumors, has to go through this? Or, you know, it does nasty things
Well,
to
and
your body.
I just finished my second book, and when
Mhm.
I got sick, I lost all three of my cats before their time. And I
Mhm.
didn't connect the dots until they were gone, that they were dealing with toxicity at all levels in their life as well.
Yep.
And glyphosate poisoning to dogs
Oh
happens
yeah.
all the time. Our pets are dealing with this stuff too. Now, my cats were indoor
Exactly.
cats, but they were dealing with the glyphosate that was now in their food.
Mhm.
My cats used to always live until their 20s. They died at 12, 14, and 16. And I decided
Exactly.
that in this book, I was going to deal with how I lived in community, low toxin. I did chapters on children because 53% of our kids have some kind of chronic illness.
Yes.
That frightens me. So I wanted to address that. And then I did 7 chapters on our fur babies because I don't want
Wow.
anybody else to go through that either. And it was great that I did it because it connected all the dots for me.
Absolutely. You know, I had a friend that had a dog who died. She used to spray all the time. And her dog had so many problems with the bladder and started getting things. I mean, and then they come in and you've sprayed, you've had your animal out there as well. Then they come in and they're going to roll in it.
Of course.
And
And
they,
so you're getting it on you
yeah,
from them,
exactly.
and they're
Exactly.
getting sick from it because you didn't know to keep them away from it.
Mm,
I think most people are not aware. And the fact that they're spraying it on playgrounds
that's terrible.
is also horrific.
And then I wonder why so many kids have breathing problems or stomach issues and all these different things. Oh, another thing I forgot to say was my spleen has enlarged, and it's been enlarged for a couple of years now. So after the gallbladder was taken out, all of those things started happening and more lumps were coming up. But the spleen's a big one, and that's why they're always doing tests for cancer markers. And, you know, I mean, fortunately, because they have been testing so long and I have been speaking up, they're now doing tests in relation to Roundup poisoning. And
Well, the Roundup has lost 3 lawsuits in the last
uh-huh.
18 months. And the reason that they finally lost the lawsuits was because, and I'm going to bring it up,
Mm-hmm.
Robert Kennedy Jr. was the attorney, and he got them to cough up their own research in
He's awesome.
discovery going back 20 years. And they knew 20 years ago that Roundup was making people sick and giving people
Exactly.
cancer. And they couldn't get into it until he finally got the discovery. So there are now 4,000 lawsuits against them for other people who have glyphosate poisoning. And I wanted to bring up the Kennedy because you just shared with me that you have been spending your time doing your
Yep.
genealogy, and who is in your family tree?
Lots of Kennedys. So,
I think that's
you
fantastic.
know, so it goes way back, and I felt it because, you know, you do it on paper and stuff, and then you do the DNA, and I found that, and, you know, lots of royal genealogy in there too. But yeah, it's cool. That's what I've been doing. Like, started working on a legacy project, because, you know, it's important to leave things for your children.
Right.
Um, and it takes my mind off, okay, say I can't breathe of a nighttime, right? I get on there and I get on, you know, researching. I love research. And I've been doing lots of research and putting it to family research. And it's great. You know, it's like, you know, that's a positive out of it. Being still enough to do that research. But I also do research on the effects of what it's done to people too, the Roundup.
Right.
And, you know, and give it to my doctors.
Well, yeah,
Talk about it with my
you
doctors.
have robust conversations with all your doctors because you
Mhm.
own your own health. And
You
that's
have
something
to.
that I want everybody to acknowledge. No matter what happens to you, and what happened to you was really horrific. You weren't going to just roll over and die. You
No.
were going to be an active
Mm-mm.
participant in your own health, and you were going to do everything in your power to keep going,
Oh,
to
yeah.
keep going for your daughter and for your grandchild, to keep going for your second husband, who is a king. He's a
Oh,
lovely human
he's
being.
awesome. He's so cute.
So I want to go through a little bit. While I'm talking to you, the list of what people do in blue zones keeps going through my head because you're
Okay.
doing all of them. Blue zones are the 5 areas in the world where people live to old age, and they
Mm-hmm.
have 8 or 9 things in common wherever they are, and they're in different areas of the world. One is in Greece, one is in Japan, one is here in Loma Linda, California.
Mm-hmm.
Things that they have in common: number one, they are all faith-based. And I know you have a
Oh,
very
absolutely.
strong faith. So
Yes.
that's something that has served you well and kept you going.
Mm-hmm.
They all eat healthy food,
Yes.
and you changed your diet significantly. Were you already eating healthy when you got sick, or has
Oh,
that happened since you
oh
got sick?
no. Well, see, beforehand it was like I was able to go eat meals socially with people, and you know, when this started to happen, you know, I had to turn down eating with friends because I said I can't eat. I mean, I can't eat big meal, and some people thought I was snubbing them, and I wasn't. And the stomach, I didn't realize the liver and the spleen were pressuring the stomach. So what I
Sure.
went on was went off all processed food, and went researched everything again, researched anti-inflammatory foods, went on those like avocados and, you know, just anything that was, you know, anti-inflammatory, and then had smaller meals because I couldn't eat, you know. And my husband's excited lately because he's going, Shelley, do you realize you're just eating a tiny bit more? You know. And I said, well, that's my faith, because they said lack of appetite, you know, is one of these signs if you with this coronavirus, and my appetite's increasing. So it's like, whoa, yeah. So,
Yeah, good.
but, you know, on a serious note, I had to cut everything out because I couldn't eat. I just couldn't eat. So, and there were certain foods that would add pain. One of them was corn. And we had to totally eliminate that because every time, and I started experimenting with it. It's like, okay, as soon as my husband would feed me something with corn in it, A, it wouldn't digest, but B, it was like the nerve endings on my body would ache. And the pain that went through my body was absolutely terrible. So,
And
you
it's
know,
a starch, and it might have been genetically modified,
genetically modified, yes.
which
Yes,
means that
absolutely.
it had Roundup again.
So it had an extra dose every time. So I started going organic, you know, researching which fruit and vegetables are safe to eat, you know, if they're not organic, and sticking with organic, and, you know, cutting out sugars. And now if I eat sugar, I feel it.
Yeah.
Occasionally I have a chocolate fetish, and I'm sorry the next day. That, you know, because then you've got the pain and you're super tired. But yeah, it's basically trial and error with what foods you can eat, and you have to go off processed. And when you look at the packaging and you see how much chemicals
Yeah,
are
it's
in
like
it,
all of those things that you don't know what they are and can't pronounce.
exactly.
They have no food value, and they're just
No,
pure synthetic chemicals.
and also, you know, I think a little bit into it. My father-in-law bought me a burger, and that afternoon I got so sick. This was about 6 months into when I wasn't able to eat, and I'd been eating really good. And I ended up yellow and nauseated for a while, and it messed with my liver levels. So
Right.
it's like you have to stick
You
with
got
it
jaundice
because
if you turned yellow.
yep, and then yeah, and the alkaline phosphate shoots up and all that sort of stuff, and it's not nice. And I can tell if my liver levels are up. I say to Chris, I've got a tan, and I haven't been outside, or I'm looking yellow. Look at my eyes, and sure enough, my eyes will be looking yellow. And when you go to the primary care doctor, I just pray that my normal primary care doctor's in there, because if other ones aren't in there, if someone's replacing her or filling in for her, you've got to explain it again, and
Right.
it's not worth going unless she's there or my hematologist oncologist is there and they can see it. But that's why I take photos. Like, if you're going through this, take photos. I mean, this is funny. When I go in to have tests, I know the people who are doing the tests now. So I say, hey, I've got to do my selfie, because it's important to keep a record of the tests you go through. It's important to write a blog on how you're feeling, because some tests are scary, and
Yes.
it's not nice going through this. I mean, I try to keep a sense of humor. Like, my husband will go, he was in, he had a kidney stone a few months ago, and he had one night of night sweats.
I just had one. Remind me not to do that again.
Yeah, he had night sweats, and he said, he pulled the blankets off. This is terrible. And then the next night he goes, sorry, Shell, you go through this every night. And, and he goes, because he'll come up to me and he'll go, your legs are hot, Shell, because you're burning up. And I'll go, thank you. I got hot legs. Thank you. You got to make a joke out of it to cope with this too. That you got to document everything. Even if you drive your family and friends crazy, subliminally, they're not going to use Roundup because they're seeing your blogs.
Right.
When they go
Right.
to use it, what if it's my grandchild? What if it's my child? What if it's me? If that's in the back of people's heads. And now's the time to get the message out, especially because people are around their home and they're worried about getting a virus. They should be worried about what they're ingesting, what they're spraying and stuff like that.
And all the environmental toxins in our life, which
and they might be actually
crazy about.
Exactly. And they might be spraying more because they're home. So it's so important to say, hey, don't use that stuff. You've seen what I'm going through. You've seen these tests where, or checking for, clots in the brains, clots in the lungs, and checking this lump, getting excited. Wow, this lump went away. Wait a minute, it's back twice as big.
And most people who get glyphosate poisoning would not have your attitude. Your attitude is one of the big reasons that you are still here 8 years later, because you believe that you're going to get well. You believe in God. You have done everything that you can do to keep yourself going. You're eating nutrients. So you're now eating for what that food can give to your body to support it. You have done everything that you can do to support your body. And it's obviously on some levels, I know you're still having a myriad of problems, but on some level, you're here because you're doing all this stuff. And
also, I don't take painkillers. And I remember when I had my knee done, our foot done, and my knee given out, I remember saying to my doctor, she goes, Shell, you got to take painkillers. No, I don't. No, I don't. And I stuck with that. And she's great. She goes, Shell, I don't want to see you in pain. I said, I'm not taking painkillers. They ruin your insides. Then when they discovered the liver, I said, we wouldn't have known about that. We wouldn't have known the cause. So knowing that I don't take painkillers, and then my doctor saying she won't even take a painkiller. She won't take anything.
Yeah, I don't take any of that stuff anymore either.
Yeah,
I have a completely natural medicine chest with things that give gifts while they take care of the problem. They don't do any harm. And we don't need that stuff.
No, because it does more damage to the body. And the way I see it is that because I did survive domestic violence years ago, really bad, that it makes it so much easier when you've got people around you that love you too.
Absolutely. Well, that's
And
another big part of the blue
along
zone.
with the faith.
You have the faith, community, who you have in your community, the people you love and the people who support you, how you eat. They all make their plates in the kitchen to take them to the table, and they stop when they're 80% full. You get full long before any of us do. So that one's a natural one. They don't take tons of medications, and they don't take over-the-counter medications if they can help it. All of these are the reasons why they live well into their 90s and still have their minds. They don't have dementia. It's kind of an amazing thing. And they've rolled out new communities that are now experimenting by, as a community, becoming blue zones. One of them here in California is down at Manhattan Beach. And there's one in Minneapolis that's a smaller city where the city actually got involved and made it more conducive so everyone can get out of their house and walk. And they stopped all the spraying of the chemicals in the community so that they could support the people in that community to clean up their environmental toxins, clean up how they eat, and live to an old age and to thrive. So you did all of that on your own, just instinctively.
And do you know what else I did? There was some questions I asked when I was going into researching family trees and stuff. Now, one of them was, it's going to sound funny, but I watched Robert the Bruce, Braveheart, and it's like, okay, I descend from a lot of these people, right, in the family tree. My attitude is, if people can go through everything in the Middle Ages without painkillers, and a lot of my relatives going down had really long lives. I found really, really long lives. And they didn't have all these chemically made drugs and things. They had to, out of survival, endure, and the strength and their faith got them through. So every time I felt sorry for myself, I'd go and read up about an ancestor along the way, all the way down, and have a look and go, well, how did they do it then? I mean, how did women do it then? Especially women. And when I look at what I'm going through, I look at my ancestors and go, wow, they didn't have all these modern things that people can't live without today. They didn't even have toilet paper.
No, and we're not suggesting that people should not get medical care, because they should.
No, but I get medical care. I keep an eye on it. But I'm just saying, I look at their strength, and I look at how they endured things. So as soon as I start feeling sorry for myself, saying I can't do this, because there have been days where I've been in pain where it's like, there was one night when my chest got tight. Oh, another thing, because of the esophagus and the stomach, I choke on my sleep, on vomit in my sleep. And that's another thing, because you go and tell doctors and they look at you like, oh, you must drink. No, I don't. I'm a coffeeholic, sorry. But I choke on my sleep. So one night I was on the couch and I wasn't feeling well, and I choked on my sleep. And I remember my chest went tight that time. And I actually had a heart attack and went to sleep.
Oh my God.
Saying, I said, okay, Lord, you've got this. I don't recommend doing that because my doctors told me off.
Yes, they should have.
Yeah, and my husband told me off. He goes, Shell, what if you died? And I said, listen, it was like I passed out from choking and my chest went tight, but it had to be that faith, because sometimes, it was like, okay, by the time I got down the stairs, I wouldn't have been able to get down the stairs, because I couldn't breathe. And, it's that trust. It's, but then I went to my doctor and called my doctor and they said, Shell, you should have went to the hospital. And I should have. I would have told my kids to go to the hospital. Right. So now I sort of let Chris know, because some nights I can't breathe, and he goes, you're breathing heavy. And I go, that's because you're cute. But that's the thing. As soon as you go through these symptoms, you've got to laugh. Otherwise
humor
the fear
is
gets
a
in.
huge part of this. And laughing is a huge part of this. But that also goes back to your mindset and your belief that you're going to get through this. that
Oh yeah.
that you can laugh this off, even though, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this who have health issues that are not nearly as severe as yours are, but they have lost their joy. And so
You've got to keep your joy.
you got to get it back.
You've got to
And
get
you
it back.
can't get into a pity party. I joined an autoimmune group on Facebook, and really, I was making suggestions about lifestyle changes. They didn't want to hear it. They wanted to have a pity party, and that is not. They wanted the magic pill, and they wanted to feel sorry for themselves.
You know, an important thing is to, like, with your partner, you've got to be able to laugh. I mean, you've got to be able to be stupid sometimes and silly, and that makes a difference. And especially because it's hard for them. You know, my husband sometimes prods me to see if I'm breathing, and I'll go, "What are you doing?" You weren't breathing, Shell. You weren't breathing properly. And it's like, okay, you know, so then I'll crack a joke, you know, even if it's about bodily functions. You've got to use humor, because you're not alone with, you know, your husband or wife. You're not alone. They're going through it. So if you get down, they
Right.
get down.
Right.
And, you know, yeah, we crack jokes, and, you know, you got to smile. Smile's the best healer. You know, I mean, and you can't allow your heart to be broken. I mean, my heart, that's another thing. I ended up with pericardial effusion at one stage. And, you know, that dried up, thank
No
God.
idea what that is even.
It was fluid around the heart. You know, so all of this stuff has been tied in together, you know, and, you know, I remember, because of my faith, saying to my cardiologist, I said to him, I said, my heart's okay. It's got Jesus in it. And he goes, no, he goes, yeah, you did okay on this. And then all of a sudden he goes, I'm sorry. And I said, but the next time you see me, it'll be healed. And do you know what? I had a CT scan. He gave, next time I'm in the office, he goes, g'day, God bless you. He did it. and my heart was, you know, it had recovered. You know, every now and again there's a murmur, but you've got to have that faith. If you sit there going, oh, what if, the what ifs are going to freeze you. You can't allow fear to freeze you. I mean, mind you, when I say don't let fear freeze you, don't be embarrassed if you can't do a test. Like, there was a test with, they did an MRI on my breast because I was coming up, like they were doubling in size and all this stuff. And I don't like stuff over my face. So I got halfway through it and I got claustrophobic. And I said, I can't do this. And it hurt because of the liver and spleen. And they were really good. And they said, come back in a few days' time, or we'll do the other half and break it in half. Same with my breathing tests. Because of fear of what I've been through before, I took a couple of goes to get it done. But then when I did get it done and achieve it, it was a sense of achievement. I took Chris in with me, and he was my, like, coach. And, you know, there was a sense of achievement. And he goes, you did it. You overcome that fear, Shell. You know, and that's so important. You know, have someone that's on your side, not someone that's going to treat you like a child, like you can't do it. Because some people, you know, I found you've got to have the right person, because some people will say you can't do that. You can't do that. You're too sick to do that. You know, get the people that doubt out the way, because they'll tell you can't do it. And you don't want to get into the mindset that you can't do this because you can't
and you
breathe.
don't want a doctor who tells you you can't do it.
No, I'm Australian. If they do, it's like, watch me. You know, they wanted to send me for physiotherapy because I couldn't walk. It took 3 months to learn to walk again, twice last year. And they said no, and I said no, I'll do it the way you know, way I trust to. I mean, there were nights where I just moved and my whole body hurt. And, you know, I got to power walking again, and now we're indoors. But I'm blessed to have stairs, so you can power walk around the house. You know, you can put the music up, pump it up, and exercise to that. Be silly. You know, I mean.
So you are exercising. That's important.
Oh, too. Yeah. It's like, you got to. And I mean, I'm blessed with stairs. People said to me, Michele, you've got 3 flights of stairs to get up. Yeah, that's good. That's exercise. you know, and going up and down with those and learning to put one foot in front of the other, literally. And my husband standing at the bottom of the stairs saying, I'll catch you if you fall, I've got you. You know, things like that, that's important, you know. And even when you're by yourself, put praise and worship music, put music on that you enjoy.
Right.
You know, and, you know, don't put depressing stuff on. You know, you'll sit there crying, you will feel it. But, you know, especially when you're in pain, do stuff to distract yourself.
Right.
You know, because that's the best way to get into you know, if you don't do that, it makes things so much worse. You feel the pain more. You know, like in the middle of the night, some nights it's like I can't breathe and I get a little bit nervous. So that's when I'm, okay, get on research, talk to friends on Facebook, do whatever, just take your mind off it. And then you find you put the phone down and then just fall asleep, you know, because I don't want to worry my husband and go, I can't breathe unless I'm, you know, or my chest hurts, you know, or my pain in my side. He can tell if there's pain because he'll look at me and he'll go, oh, look at your side, it's big, you know, and I'll go, you know, yeah, we just make jokes out of it. You've got to. I mean, if you don't.
You're really remarkable, Michele.
Nah, my goddess, Jesus, it's not me.
You both
it's
are.
Not me.
Your tenacity is fantastic.
Thank you.
And one of the other elements of Blue Zones, I'll keep bringing them in, is passion. Is to have passion for something. You have passion for your genealogy. You have passion for your daughter and your grandchild. You have passion for your husband.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of that is part of why you're still here and you're still
Amen.
thriving. And
Amen.
so it's like, if I went down the list, you are fulfilling all of the things that they're learning that we all need to do. I put a chapter in both books on Blue Zones because one of the other things people say to me when I'm out speaking is, hey, this is all fine and well, but I'm healthy and I don't need this.
Everybody needs it.
Wouldn't you like to live to old age and still have your mind intact? I think that's a worthy goal. So, and it takes 20 years for inflammation to build up to topple over the top. So everybody does need this.
Because I'm a survivor of domestic violence and I got a lot of hits to the head, a lot of concussions, you know, I see it that I've got to work harder. You know, and, you know, so with all of that on top of it, you've got to eat healthy. You've got to look after yourself, you know, and yeah, you can't not. Right. I mean, I look at people eating junk. I can't even stand the smell of junk food anymore.
I know. If I'm near somebody with French fries from a fast food restaurant, it's like unbelievably annoying to me. I don't want to smell it anymore. And I used to think that was the best smell, but now it's like the most disgusting smell to me. But when you start eating healthy, I mean, when I detoxed off of sugar, I have a hard time going down the aisles with the sugar. I can smell it everywhere in the grocery store. And
Chocolate's
that's not
bad.
a pretty smell. Yeah.
No.
So you don't even know that you're dealing with that until you detox off of it. And then it's a whole new world.
And then if you have a piece, it's dangerous because your body craves it.
Right.
And, you know, you can't have that, you know.
Well, sugar is as addictive as heroin and cocaine. And I went through withdrawal like I was withdrawing from significant drugs. I was in bed for days and everything hurt.
Yep, but and you're tired.
Right. And you come out the other end of that and it's a whole new world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that actually kills more people. Sugar.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, because of the, you know, and I mean, combined with Roundup and, you know, I mean, everybody should be concerned with Roundup because it's basically on everything.
Yeah, it is. And they don't wash it off. All of your wheat products that are not organic are not only sprayed with glyphosate, they're drenched in glyphosate.
Exactly.
And so it's not washed off. So every time you eat that cookie or that piece of bread, you're getting an unhealthy dose of toxins with it, and you're not even aware of it.
Absolutely. And also when people use Roundup, they don't use protective clothing, and they don't wash. And, you know, they, you know, that's why with farmers and things, a lot of farmers' wives get sick.
Right.
I watched a documentary from Australia, and a farmer was talking about how his wife was the first to get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because she washed his clothes. It's when you know, she gave him a hug or he went to bed without washing, you know, and it can be transmitted like that, you know, and people don't think about that. You know, you talk about wash your hands, you know, you need protective gear, you know, and a lot of people don't use it and don't realize how dangerous this is, you know, and
And
it's
you were
sad.
telling me a lot of your symptoms are the exact same symptoms as COVID-19. So why don't you share that?
Well, I get out of breath. I spend all night, like, I have my own personal sauna of a night time. So I have a night sweats all night. So it's like blanket on, blanket off, you know, so it's like wax on, wax off. And I joke with my husband, okay, it's going to be one of those nights because, you know, I'm burning up. I get out of breath, you know, really easy. Like I can bend over to pick something up and I get out of breath.
And you get the headaches?
Every now and again, not so much now, but yeah, you know. So, I mean, it's hard to tell because if they say a fever, I was saying to my husband, I said, if they say a fever, how would I know if I'm having a fever? Because I burn up every night anyway. My body just burns. A couple of times Chris has woken me up and said, Shell, you're burning up. You know, and this has been going on for about 2 years, especially the last 6 months. You know, I don't get much sleep, but you got to laugh. You know, you may see I'm doing lots of blogs or writing. That's because I can't sleep because I'm really hot, you know. But I make a joke about it. I said, you know, when Chris gets worried, I always say, how many guys can say they got a really hot blonde next to them? You know, you know, or you give me fever. You know, I mean, it's really hard on him when he sees, you know, and especially the breathing part, like because my chest hurts a lot and because it's hard to breathe every now and again, that's a major part. You know, I said to him, how would I know? So I actually prayed and we were joking about it. I said, look, my sense of smell's increased, my appetite's increasing, you know, well, hoping I can be healed through this too. But, you know, it's like, that's why Chris has said, okay, you stay downstairs, you stay in the house. It's just going to be me going out because we wouldn't know if I had it. And if I had it, I probably wouldn't make it. But with my faith, I'd be determined to, if I did get it.
Determined to heal
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
You know, I was on that, I was reading that it affects the lungs. And I said to Chris, why don't they give people phlebotomy and put the plasma back in because it can cause clots? You know, so, you know, because I was looking up the other day, I was like, okay, you know, I was trying to see if there's similarities between the two blood-wise. And, you know, they said if your ferritin's high, but mine's low. So, but I'm being careful, you know.
Well, and you can still smell things, which I understand with COVID.
Oh,
you
yeah.
lose that. You lose the ability to smell.
Yeah, well, they're actually getting stronger, you know, which is funny, you know, because, you know, I'll be on a bus and I'll look at Chris and I'll go, that person should be arrested. I can smell what they've got in their pocket. You know, it's like, or something like that. My sense of smell is so strong. He'll go, you know, you should have been the police should hire you to track down.
You're a bloodhound.
So, oh yeah, because I'll be there and I'll be looking and he'll go just staring. What are you smelling on people? And the sense of smell, I don't know whether it's to do with the Roundup or whatnot. Probably the liver, because if people are doing their washing, I can smell. I have to shut the doors because the smell of the perfumes of it really makes me feel sick.
Right.
You know, so that's a liver thing from the damage from the Roundup. But that's not, you know, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. As long as I'm breathing, I'm fine.
Completely amazing. And I'm so glad that you took the time to talk to me today,
Thank
to
you.
share this with everybody. Unfortunately, we're
Thank
running
you.
out of time, so I'm going to have to round it up. But for anybody out there who is not feeling themselves, or who is sick, or who has cancer, or who has autoimmune disease, or who has heart disease, you have to have the elements that Michelle's been talking about to
Oh, thank you.
survive. And so that's why I wanted you to share your story, because
Oh, thank
I
you.
want you to give other people hope that if they do the things that you're doing, they can come, they may not be completely healed. I will always have autoimmune disease.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't have to be in terrible pain, and they don't have
No.
to be in a place where they're not living their life. If you can do this with all the poisoning that you've been going through, they can do this too. And that's really,
it's important to make lemonade out of lemons.
and you obviously have done that. So it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.